Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try, reality just doesn't seem to change, as if you were trapped in a dimension where everything is scarcity, fear, and constant struggle? What if I told you this isn't a coincidence, but a frequency, and that the top 1% of the most successful people in the world don't live better lives just because of money or privilege, but because they access another dimension? In this video, you're going to discover the mental frequency that instantly shifts your reality, a hidden code that, once activated, lifts you out of the vibration of struggle and takes you into a state where love, abundance, and success flow naturally. This isn't magic, it's science, spirituality, and consciousness. Before we go on, write this in the comments: I choose to live in love and abundance. This affirmation will strengthen your intention and open the door for this new reality to start manifesting right now. Jacobo Grinberg was one of the greatest researchers of consciousness in modern history. A Mexican scientist, neurophysiologist, and author of more than 50 books, Grinberg dedicated his life to investigating something few dared to explore: how the human mind interacts with the structure of reality. His conclusion was clear: what we call reality is not something fixed or external, but a projection of our own mental field. According to him, we live inside a vibrational matrix shaped by the frequency we emit. This matrix, which he called the neuronal field, is profoundly influenced by our thoughts, emotions, and states of consciousness. In other words, your outer reality is nothing more than a reflection of your inner vibration. Grinberg not only studied altered states of perception, but also immersed himself in spiritual traditions such as shamanism to understand how consciousness could transcend the limits of matter. He claimed that people who operate at higher frequencies literally access other perceptual dimensions, subtler levels of existence where fear and scarcity no longer rule, and manifestation happens naturally. With that foundation, let's explore how you can access this higher vibrational level and begin to completely transform your life. Have you noticed how two people can live completely different lives, even in the same place, the same city, under the same conditions? One seems to flow effortlessly with opportunities, achievements, and well-being, while the other is constantly stuck in problems, scarcity, and frustration. The explanation for this is not chance, destiny, or luck. It lies in the vibrational frequency each person radiates. According to Jacobo Grinberg, the reality we perceive is a construction generated by our own mental field. He argued that we don't live in one single objective reality, but in multiple coexisting perceptual dimensions. This means that although we all share the same physical plane, each person inhabits their own dimension, shaped by the vibrational frequency of their thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. This understanding goes far beyond philosophy. Modern physics, especially in quantum mechanics, suggests that conscious observation is what collapses the universe's possibilities into a perceived reality. In other words, the observer directly influences what is observed. This reveals that reality is not static, but mutable, shaped by individual consciousness. When you live in the frequency of fear, doubt, anxiety, or scarcity, your mind tunes only to events, people, and opportunities vibrating at that same frequency. This is not metaphorical, it is literal. Your reality adjusts to reflect exactly what you are emitting. That's why people stuck in this cycle feel like the whole world is against them. Nothing flows, everything is hard, and success always seems just out of reach. On the other hand, those who operate at higher frequencies, love, trust, gratitude, enthusiasm, experience a completely different reality, even under the same external conditions. It's as if they were in another plane, another dimension, and in fact, they are. Vibrational frequency determines the dimensional level of your experience. The higher the frequency, the more subtle and aligned the experiences you attract. This higher dimension is not a place, but a state of consciousness. And this state defines how you perceive time, problems, opportunities, and yourself. The secret is understanding that reality is not singular, it is personalized. You don't live in the world, you live in the reflection of your mind, and when you raise your frequency, you literally shift dimensions without moving at all. This shift does not require money, status, or external approval. It only requires an inner decision to stop reacting to reality and start creating from your vibration. From this point on, you'll start noticing the first signs of dimensional transition. More lightness, more synchronicities, more flow. Because the new reality you seek already exists. It's just vibrating at a different frequency than where you are now. From an early age, we are immersed in a system that operates at a very specific frequency: fear. This vibration is subtle but extremely powerful. It manifests in phrases like, "Life isn't easy," "Money is hard to earn," "Not everyone succeeds," or "You have to work very hard to be somebody." These affirmations are repeated so often, they begin to feel like absolute truths. But they're not. They're vibrational codes, mental programs, shaping your reality since childhood. Jacobo Grinberg explained that the structure of consciousness is highly sensitive to repetition and emotion. The more an idea is repeated in a strong emotional state, the more deeply it imprints on the neuronal field, creating filters that determine what you perceive as real. This means that if you were conditioned with fear, guilt, and scarcity, your mind will only select information that confirms this limited worldview. And society knows this. The media, for example, is one of the most effective tools for maintaining this low frequency. Alarming news, stories of failure, financial crises, violence, all of this feeds the collective mind with feelings of danger, insufficiency, and urgency. The result? An inner world constantly on alert, operating in survival mode instead of creation mode. The problem is that in this state, the brain activates the sympathetic nervous system, responsible for the fight or flight response. You close off, contract, react in fear, and make defensive decisions instead of expansive ones. And worst of all, you become manipulable. Just like a hypnotic instrument controls the dance of a snake, society plays the melody of fear and you automatically respond without realizing you're being guided. This programming runs so deep that even when you try to change your life, a part of you resists. The inner voice appears, "What if it doesn't work? Do I really deserve this? This isn't for me." These voices aren't yours. They come from the programming installed in you. But here's the key. All of this can be undone. When you consciously identify these patterns, you regain the power of choice. And that's the first step to breaking the cycle of scarcity. You weren't made to just survive, you were made to create. But to do that, fear must be deprogrammed. And it starts with awareness, noticing when you're vibrating in fear and stopping, breathing, questioning, choosing again, because fear is invisible control, but love is vibrational liberation. And the next step in this journey is discovering how love, this powerful elevated frequency, can rewire your mind and open the path to a new dimension of reality. If you want to change your reality in a deep and lasting way, you must understand one essential truth. Love is vibrational technology. And we're not talking about romance or superficial affection, but about a real, measurable force capable of aligning your body, your mind, and the universe around you. According to studies from the HeartMath Institute, the frequency of love vibrates around 500 Hz. One of the highest ever recorded in the human emotional field. When you enter this frequency, something extraordinary happens. Your heart and brain move into coherence, a state of electromagnetic harmony that completely alters the way you perceive and interact with reality. Jacobo Grinberg affirmed that reality is shaped by the neuronal field, and this field responds directly to the state of inner coherence. When heart and brain are aligned, your mind stops sabotaging, your body stops resisting, and everything you desire manifests with ease. This coherence is the bridge between the inner world and the outer reality. Have you ever noticed how life flows when you feel in love with it? When you're inspired, grateful, at peace? In those moments, you don't have to force anything. Opportunities arise, the right people appear, answers come effortlessly. This happens because you're vibrating in love, and love creates order, while fear creates disorder. Manifestation is not about wanting harder. It's about being aligned with what you want. Imagine two gears that only work when they fit perfectly together. If you desire prosperity but vibrate in anxiety, doubt, or attachment, those frequencies don't match. The result is resistance, frustration, and the sense that everything is harder than it should be. But if you want something and place yourself in the frequency where it already exists, feeling love, gratitude, certainty, then manifestation becomes an inevitable consequence of your vibration. Love is the opposite of effort. It is presence, surrender, trust. And paradoxically, it is also the most powerful frequency there is, because it doesn't need to prove anything. When you vibrate in love, you stop chasing, and everything starts chasing you. This is the true physics of manifestation. The field responds to coherence. If you are whole, aligned, present, the universe reflects that like a mirror. Reality bends to your vibration. So if you want to manifest wealth, health, freedom, or purpose, stop fighting. Start feeling love for these things as if they were already real. Feel as if you were already there. What you feel deeply, you create. Love is not the path. Love is creation itself. There is a fundamental energetic difference between creating and chasing. Most people, without realizing it, are trapped in hunter mode, constantly running after success, money, recognition, love. This endless chase creates a vibrational cycle of scarcity because it reinforces the idea that what you want is outside of you, distant, difficult, unreachable. And the more you chase, the more it slips away. This is the logic of fear, and it's also the greatest saboteur of manifestation. Jacobo Grinberg understood that consciousness creates reality from the inside, not the outside. So when you act like a hunter, you're telling the universe, I don't have, I need to get. And the universe responds exactly to that. With more lack, more distance, more struggle. You enter an endless, energetic loop of scarcity. Now imagine flipping this paradigm. Instead of chasing, you start creating from within. This changes everything. You stop being someone who pursues and become someone who emits. Your vibration becomes the source of experience, not a reaction to what is missing. This is the difference between being a slave to desire and being a channel of creation. People who manifest easily aren't necessarily more talented, rich, or lucky. They simply operate from a higher vibrational state where there is no urgency, no desperation, no need to prove anything. They know that what they desire already exists, and they live in coherence with that reality. When you vibrate love, trust, gratitude, you naturally attract everything that resonates with that frequency. This is the logic of attraction. You don't bring what you want, you bring what you are. The mistake most people make is trying to manifest grand things while maintaining a small, fragmented vibration based on fear and need. It doesn't work. The field of creation doesn't respond to shallow desire, but to deep coherence. Pause for a moment and reflect. What have you been chasing? And what if, instead of running, you sat in silence and began to feel as if you already had it? What if you chose to act from certainty instead of lack? You are not a hunter in this life. You are an emitter of realities. What's inside you manifests. What you feel with conviction materializes. True manifestation is not about wanting, it's about being. And being is a vibrational state. The more you align with the identity of the Creator, the one who feels, lives, and vibrates what they desire, the more life begins to respond with synchronicity, flow, and natural miracles. Stop chasing. Create from within. That is true freedom. The reality you experience daily is not just the result of what happens around you, but of what you perceive. And what you perceive is determined by an internal filter called the reticular activating system, the famous RAS. Think of the RAS as a selective filter in your brain, deciding which information deserves your attention and which should be ignored. It does this based on the beliefs and priorities already installed in you. If you're constantly focused on scarcity, fear, comparison, or doubt, the RAS will keep filtering the world around you to show exactly that. More scarcity, more fear, more reasons to doubt. You don't see reality as it is. You see what your RAS allows you to see. Jacobo Grinberg explained that perception is shaped by the neuronal field, and the RAS is one of its most powerful mechanisms. It's like a gatekeeper between the external world and your conscious mind. This explains why two people can be in the same situation, yet one sees opportunities while the other only sees obstacles. The good news? This system can be consciously reprogrammed. The first step is realizing that words create focus. When you repeat affirmations like, "This is hard," "Nothing works for me," or "I can't do it," you're instructing your RAS to look for evidence to confirm those ideas, and it obeys. It will ignore opportunities, connections, and possibilities that don't align with those beliefs. Now, if you begin repeating with emotion and intention, "All I need is already coming to me. I am guided by opportunities aligned with my purpose. I am worthy of abundance now." You start shifting the focus of your RAS. It begins searching for what matches these new affirmations, and as if by magic, you start noticing things you never saw before. People show up, ideas appear, channels open, not because they didn't exist before, but because you weren't vibrating to perceive them. The second step is associating these affirmations with real emotion. The RAS responds not just to repetition, but to the emotional intensity involved. That's why saying something mechanically doesn't work. You need to feel as if it were true, as if it were already happening. Continuous practice turns this into a new pattern. Over time, your RAS stops running on the scarcity autopilot and starts tuning into signals of prosperity, love, joy, and expansion. Reprogramming the RAS means taking control of your perception and therefore of your reality. The question now is, will you keep seeing the world through the filters that taught you to fear, or will you choose to install new filters that reveal the abundance that has always been here? There is a silent but profound turning point in the journey of anyone who decides to transform their reality. The moment identity shifts. We're not just talking about behavior or habits, but about vibrational essence, the way you see yourself and position yourself energetically in the world. Jacobo Grinberg, in his studies of expanded states of consciousness, made it clear that reality restructures itself based on the vibrational identity we assume. This means you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is defined by what you continuously and coherently vibrate. Internal coherence happens when your emotions, thoughts, intentions, and actions vibrate on the same frequency. It's like tuning every instrument in an orchestra. When this happens, your energy becomes stable, clear, powerful, and the field of reality responds to this clarity like an echo, reflecting back everything in resonance with that new frequency. But what happens to most people? They say they want prosperity, but vibrate insecurity. They want love, but carry resentment. They desire freedom, but live trapped in fear of judgment. This creates internal incoherence, a confused, fragmented, contradictory, energetic signal, and reality reflects that chaos back. The dimensional shift happens when you break that dissonance and radically decide to embody a new vibrational identity. And this doesn't mean pretending to be something you're not. It means fully inhabiting the higher version of yourself that already exists within. This identity doesn't need to be built from scratch. It already exists. It is you without the filters of fear, guilt, and scarcity. It is you in the frequency of love, trust, and conscious creation. To activate this new identity, the first step is conscious choice. Choosing to think, feel, speak, and act as someone already living the reality you desire. This requires consistency, but above all, it requires genuine feeling. You can't just repeat positive phrases, you must feel they are true. The second step is emotional persistence. For 21 days or more, you must hold this vibration, even when nothing external seems to have changed yet. That's when the magic happens. Vibrational coherence creates a stable field that restructures everything around you. The third step is detaching from the old identity. This can hurt. It may mean walking away from environments, people, or patterns that reinforce the old frequency. But it's in that temporary void that the new field installs itself. By doing this, you don't just manifest new experiences. You shift dimensions. A new reality begins to unfold, filled with synchronicities, opportunities, and miracles. Not because something outside changed, but because you began vibrating as the version of you that already lives what you desire. Throughout life, we've been conditioned to see love as something fragile, passive, reserved for moments of vulnerability. But that is one of the greatest illusions created by the frequency of scarcity. True love is not weakness. It is pure strength. It is the force that sustains creation, that connects, transforms, and expands everything it touches. Jacobo Grinberg saw love as one of the highest manifestations of consciousness. And this is confirmed by many spiritual traditions and modern science. Love is not just a feeling. It is a measurable energetic frequency that, when activated, puts body and mind into coherence, allowing you to manifest with clarity and without resistance. But this frequency requires courage, because truly loving means removing the masks, letting go of control, leaving behind the fear of rejection, failure, or other people's opinions. Above all, it means taking responsibility for yourself, for your own vibration, and for what you radiate into the world. Spiritual leadership doesn't come from dominating others, but from being the presence that inspires, transforms, and uplifts. It's when you become so coherent, so present, so vibrationally integral, that everything around you begins to align. People draw near, projects flow, doors open, not by force, but by resonance. When you choose to live from love, you break free from games of manipulation, systems of fear, toxic power dynamics. You stop fighting for space and naturally take the place that belongs to you, the one your frequency attracts with both gentleness and strength. To love, then, is a revolutionary act. It is choosing to vibrate above the system. It is refusing to live reactively and choosing to live as the conscious creator of your reality. And the more you love, the more you become a channel of healing, clarity, transformation for yourself and for others. That is spiritual leadership, guiding by example, not imposition, being the living reflection of the peace, abundance, and truth you want to see in the world. And yes, this also changes your material life, because love and prosperity walk hand in hand. There's no contradiction between living with purpose and living with abundance. On the contrary, when you vibrate in love, The entire universe conspires to give you the resources, connections, and experiences that support your mission. Love is not a fleeting emotion. Love is a vibrational decision, and those who choose it, choose a new reality. You don't need to conquer the world to prove you're strong. You only need to remember that true strength lies in being who you already are, whole, loving, conscious, free, and that no one can take away from you. Now that you understand the power of vibrational frequency, the role of love in manifestation, and the illusion of reality based on fear, only one question remains: what will you do with this knowledge? Change begins within, the moment you choose to stop chasing and decide to start vibrating as the creator. Over the next few days, observe yourself. Notice when you're operating in the frequency of scarcity. Take a deep breath, pause, and choose again. Choose love. Use the techniques shared here. Repeat affirmations of abundance with emotion. Move into coherence with what you desire. Feel as if it's already real. Make this a daily commitment. With every new choice, you reprogram your field and step up into the dimension where manifestation is natural. If this content touched you in any way, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to keep receiving videos like this. Leave your comment saying, "I already live in the frequency of love and abundance." Share this video with someone who needs to awaken. Together, we are creating a new reality, and it begins now with you.